Lovely viewers, gather close because today's story is one that will make your heart swell, your eyes misty, and your smile absolutely unstoppable. If you're a softie for family moments, prepare yourselves, because Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo's twins have just reached a milestone so precious, so emotional, and so unforgettable that fans across the world are literally crying happy tears. Yes, lovely viewers. The twins said Appa for the very first time, and the way it happened will make you fall even deeper in love with this beautiful family. It all began on a quiet morning in their home, the kind of peaceful morning where sunlight slips through the curtains and everything feels warm and gentle. Min-ho had woken up early, not because he had filming or a schedule, but because he wanted to make breakfast for the twins. Parent mode fully activated. With messy hair and the softest smile, he tiptoed around the kitchen, preparing tiny dishes for his little ones. Meanwhile, Hye-kyo stood by the doorway, smiling at the sight of her husband, trying not to wake anyone while stirring porridge like a professional dad chef. But lovely viewers, the magic moment didn't happen in the kitchen. It happened in the living room, shortly after Min-ho had gently placed the twins on their play mat. He sat there, cross-legged on the floor, watching them with the absolute softest expression you will ever imagine. He shook a tiny rattle for one twin, made goofy faces at the other, and even started humming a tune, making them laugh in their adorable little baby voices. And then, it happened. One of the twins, let's just call him Baby A, looked right at Min-ho with those big sparkling eyes, stretched his tiny hands toward him and said it. Appa. Just one word. One tiny, perfect, heart-crushingly sweet word. Lovely viewers, Lee Min-ho froze. He blinked once, then twice. Then he gasped so loudly Hye-kyo heard him from the kitchen. His mouth dropped open. The rattle slipped out of his hand. He covered his chest like his heart had literally stopped. And then, before he could even recover, Baby B heard the excitement, turned toward Min-ho too, and repeated it even louder. Appa! This time with a cute little giggle that made Min-ho's entire soul melt into a puddle. Lovely viewers, imagine the scene. Imagine Lee Min-ho, global superstar, heartthrob, sophisticated actor, completely undone by two tiny humans calling him Appa for the first time. He just collapsed onto the floor, laughing and tearing up at the same time, pulling both babies into his arms as they babbled happily. He didn't care that his shirt got wrinkled or that he probably looked like a mess. This was the greatest award of his life. When Song Hye-kyo rushed into the room after hearing all the excitement, she saw Min-ho hugging the twins, tears streaming down his face, whispering, "Did you hear that? They called me Appa. They actually called me Appa." She covered her mouth, her own eyes filling, because she knew exactly what that meant to him. This wasn't just a milestone. This was a moment he had secretly dreamed about since the day they found out they were expecting. Hye-kyo crouched beside them, wrapping her arms around all three and whispered, "See? They know exactly who their father is." Min-ho laughed through his tears, burying his face in the baby's tiny shoulders. And the twins, they kept repeating the word like they already knew they had unlocked a new way to make their dad melt into butter. But lovely viewers, here's where it gets even sweeter. A few hours later, when Min-ho finally regained his composure, he decided to record a short video snippet. Not for the public, not for press, but for private family memories. In the clip, which fans eventually saw a tiny glimpse of through a family friend's Instagram story, you can hear Min-ho saying softly, "Who am I?" And the twins, in their adorable baby voices, respond together, "Appa!" The way he fell backward laughing. Lovely viewers, that one moment alone ignited a tidal wave of emotions online. Fans took to social media instantly, saying things like, "We are not okay. Min-ho deserves this joy. I'm crying like they are my own babies. This is the happiest news of the week. My heart is full. Seeing him so soft with his kids is healing my soul." Videos of fans reacting to the clip started trending. Artists began drawing fan art of Min-ho holding the twins. Even veteran fans who have followed him for over a decade said this moment felt like watching a longtime friend experience the biggest blessing of his life. And honestly, who can blame them? There's something deeply touching about seeing someone who has given so much to the world, through his art, his charisma, his dedication, receive such pure, innocent love in return. Later in the evening, when the twins were finally napping, Minho sat beside Haikyo on the couch and whispered, almost shyly, "I didn't think I'd cry like that." She smiled, resting her head against his shoulder. "That's what being a father does. It surprises you." He laughed lightly, shaking his head. "I want to remember today forever." Lovely viewers, this is where the interactive part comes in. Imagine for a moment that you were there in that living room, watching Minho's face the second he heard Appa for the first time. Which part would have melted you the most? The way he froze? The tears? The laughter? Or the twins repeating it just because they loved his reaction? Would you have cried too? Would you have recorded every second like Haikyo? Or would you have screamed with excitement like the fans who saw the clip online? Let me know in the comments, because this moment isn't just adorable, it's universal. It's a reminder of how powerful a child's first word can be. How love moves people. How even the biggest stars are soft, tender, emotional parents at their core. And trust me, lovely viewers, the story only grows sweeter, deeper, and even more heartwarming from here. After Minho and Haikyo finally wiped their tears and regained control of their emotions, the twins continued babbling joyfully as if they were fully aware of the chaos they had caused. Baby A kept tapping Minho's cheek with his tiny hand, giggling every time Minho said, "Say it again." And Baby B, always the more playful one, started clapping, his little palms making soft tapping sounds that filled the living room with pure innocence. Minho looked at Haikyo with an expression that said everything without a single word. "This is the happiest I've ever been." And lovely viewers, Haikyo felt it too. She sat beside him watching their babies play and suddenly whispered, "Today changed something, didn't it?" Minho nodded slowly, his voice soft and full of emotion. "I always dreamed of hearing them call me Appa, but I didn't expect it to feel like this. It's like my heart can't fit inside my chest anymore." The twins eventually tired themselves out and crawled closer to their parents, settling into Minho's lap like two tiny bundles of joy. He held them securely, kissing the tops of their heads repeatedly, unable to stop himself. At one point he whispered, "Thank you for choosing me as your father," even though the babies were too young to understand, but maybe, just maybe, they felt it. But lovely viewers, the emotional avalanche wasn't over yet. When the twins' grandparents, both Minho's mother and Haikyo's mother, heard the news, they immediately rushed to the house, not even bothering to hide how excited they were. The moment they stepped inside, Haikyo's mother clasped her hands dramatically. "Let me hear it. Let me hear my grandchildren say it." Minho laughed, holding the twins up like two trophies. "Come on, show Grandma what you showed Appa." With perfect timing, Baby A blinked sleepily, looked at Minho again and said softly, "Appa." This time it was the grandmothers who screamed. Lovely viewers, when I say Haikyo's mother nearly fell to her knees out of pure joy, I am not exaggerating. Meanwhile, Minho's mother kept wiping her eyes, telling him, "You cried like this when you said your first word too." Minho, embarrassed but amused, replied, "Please don't expose me right now." And then came the extended family group chat chaos. Pictures, voice notes, videos. Everyone wanted to hear the twins say, "Appa." Even Minho's cousins started joking. "We're uncles, can they say that next?" And fans, seeing the tiny leak online, began asking the same thing. Lovely viewers, imagine the entire world collectively waiting for two little babies to say more words. That's how powerful this moment was. As afternoon approached, Minho insisted on doing something special for the twins to celebrate their milestone. He decorated the living room with tiny star-shaped balloons and pastel ribbons. Nothing extravagant, just enough to make the house feel festive. Haikyo was touched by how thoughtful he was, whispering, "You're such a good father." Minho flushed and looked away shyly, saying, "I'm just trying." But lovely viewers, the sweetness didn't stop there. Minho spent hours sitting on the floor with the twins, showing them picture books, pointing at objects and saying Appa repeatedly, hoping they would mimic him again. And they did, so many times that he started recording every single attempt. At one point, he sent a voice note to Haikyo even though she was in the next room. They said it again. Number 12 today. Haikyo teased him from the doorway. Are we counting now? Yes. Minho replied proudly. This is history. When the twins finally took their afternoon nap, Minho sat on the edge of their crib with the softest expression. He placed one hand gently on Baby B's chest, feeling the small rhythmic rise and fall of his breathing. Then he whispered something that made Haikyo stop in her tracks. I want to be the kind of father they brag about someday. Lovely viewers. Isn't that so beautiful? He wasn't talking about fame, success, or achievements. He meant kindness, patience, love, the qualities that truly matter. Haikyo walked over, touched his shoulder and said softly, You already are. He looked at her with eyes that held years of love, gratitude, and admiration. I couldn't do any of this without you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. She smiled and leaned her head on his shoulder. We're doing it together. And as evening approached, something unexpected happened, a tiny moment that made the day even more memorable. When the twins woke up from their nap, still groggy and warm, Minho leaned down and whispered, Appa's here. And Baby B, barely opening his eyes, murmured softly, Appa, in that half-asleep baby voice that instantly shattered Minho all over again. He scooped the baby into his arms, whispering, You're going to make me cry again, aren't you? Even during dinner time, the twins kept practicing the word, pointing at Minho with tiny hands and repeating it like a little chant. The family laughed endlessly, and Minho nearly fell out of his chair trying to record all of it. Later that night, after the twins were tucked into bed, Minho and Haikyo sat in the dimly lit living room, wrapped in a blanket together. He rested his head against her shoulder, still overwhelmed by the day. I didn't know life could feel this full, he admitted quietly. Haikyo smiled, intertwining her fingers with his. We're just getting started. Lovely viewers, can you feel the warmth of this moment? Can you imagine the emotion of witnessing a father hear his title for the first time from the children he adores? So tell me, if you were there watching all of this unfold, what part would have made your heart burst first? The babies saying Appa, the grandmothers screaming with joy, Minho recording every moment like a proud dad, or that final quiet moment when he confessed how full his heart felt. And the moment those soft little voices echoed in his mind again, Lee Minho felt something stir so deeply inside him that he couldn't sit still. Lovely viewers, if you thought the earlier part of this emotional journey was heart-melting, brace yourselves, because what followed next in their home was even sweeter, even warmer, and so unbelievably tender that fans said it felt like watching a real-life K-drama unfolding in slow motion. As Minho continued holding his twins, their tiny hands patting his cheeks and pulling gently at his hair, he suddenly realized he wanted to soak in every second of this new memory. He didn't want the moment to pass. He didn't want the babies to grow too fast. He didn't want life to rush ahead before he had a chance to fully appreciate how precious it all was. So what did he do? He slowly dropped to the floor, sat cross-legged with the twins on his lap, and just gazed at them like they were the greatest miracle he had ever witnessed. The twins, thrilled by their father's attention, continued babbling excitedly. Soft, incoherent sounds, tiny giggles, hands waving in the air, and every time they accidentally stumbled onto a sound close to Appa, Minho would gasp and laugh again like he just won a Lifetime Achievement Award. Song Haikyo stood nearby, completely speechless. She leaned against the wall with her hand pressed to her heart, watching the man she loved transform into the softest, most emotional version of himself. Her eyes were shiny, but this time not just from tears. There was pride, love, admiration, all swirling together. She had seen him act many roles in dramas, but nothing compared to the raw sincerity he displayed as a father. This was the real him, the version only she and the twins got to see. And in that moment she felt lucky, truly deeply lucky. Minho looked up at her with teary eyes and mouthed silently, I can't believe this. Haikyo immediately walked over, crouched beside him and took his hand. The three of them, four, including the sleeping twin on his shoulder, formed a picture that fans later described as the softest image that has ever existed. The babies cuddled between them, perfectly content, perfectly loved. And then something surprising happened. One of the twins reached out both tiny hands, grabbed Haikyo's face, and pressed their forehead to hers. She gasped in shock and laughed through her tears. It was like the babies wanted their mother to share the moment equally, as if saying, "Don't cry, Iyama, we love you too." The other twin mimicked the gesture and leaned forward toward Minho, touching his forehead with their own. Lovely viewers, imagine that. Two tiny babies giving their parents a synchronized forehead kiss. If this were a drama scene, people would say it's unrealistic. But real life, real love, it's even more magical. Later, after the babies had calmed down, Minho carefully laid them on the playmat. He and Haikyo sat beside them, watching as the twins clapped their hands and babbled proudly as if expecting applause. And guess what? Minho gave them the applause they wanted. Big dramatic claps, cheering like a proud father whose children had just won gold medals. The twins burst into laughter, kicking their tiny feet, and repeating the only syllables they knew how to form with confidence. Every sound they made reminded him of the earlier Appa, and each time, he felt the warmth spread through him again. And viewers, you won't believe what happened next. As Minho clapped for the twins, Haikyo began recording another video, this time capturing the entire family in one beautiful frame. Minho noticed but didn't mind. In fact, he leaned closer to the twins, kissed the tops of their heads, and whispered loudly enough for the camera to catch, "You two are my biggest joy. You made my whole year with that one word." He laughed softly. "Even if you shout Appa 1,000 times tomorrow, I'll still cry every single time." This one short clip, just 50 seconds long, was uploaded by a staff member with permission, and within minutes it spread like wildfire. Fans were crying, screaming, reposting, writing essays on how the affection in Minho's voice made them emotional. Some viewers said, "I didn't realize babies saying their first word could affect me this deeply." Others said they felt like they were watching a family destined for happiness. And many wrote things like, "This is the gentlest version of Lee Min-ho we have ever seen." Inside the house that evening, the emotional high still hadn't faded. When the twins finally drifted off to sleep, Haikyo snuggled close to Minho on the couch. He wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulled her closer, and rested his head on hers. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the videos again, one where the twins said, "Appa," another where they giggled during his applause. Each time the babies' voices filled the room. He exhaled softly, like someone reliving the happiest moment of his life. "You know," Haikyo whispered, "I've never seen you this emotional." Minho chuckled quietly. "I didn't know I could feel something this strong," he admitted. "I knew being a father would be life-changing, but this," he shook his head, lost for words. "This feels like the universe handed me a gift." Haikyo lifted her hand and gently brushed his cheek. "They adore you," she said softly. "They feel safe with you. That's why their first word was Appa." He looked at her with warm, grateful eyes and whispered, "And they adore you too. They will say Yama soon. I can feel it." She smiled shyly, leaning into him. "When they do, you better record it," she teased. He laughed. "Record it. I'll celebrate like I won an award." But then he grew quiet, lowered his forehead to hers and whispered, "Thank you for this family, for these babies, for loving me." Lovely viewers, that's when Haikyo's tears fell again, softly, beautifully, because she knew Minho wasn't just emotional over a milestone. He was emotional because his heart was full, full of love, full of gratitude, full of a happiness that felt too big for words. And as the night grew quieter, the two of them held each other with the kind of warmth that makes people believe in love all over again.